We believe it is our mission to protect and care for people and their environment every day. Pioneering future-focused cleaning and hygiene solutions. Trust the experts to select the best hygiene technology matching your site's challenges and your sustainability vision. Diversey, your global partner for responsible hygiene solutions.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the penultimate day of the season 4, which is going to close tomorrow in just about 25 hours. And welcome to the Diversey BW Hotelier GM Show Series, season 4. So as we enter the final week of this remarkable season, I want to begin with a note of deep gratitude to our moderators, our general managers, our audiences across India and beyond, our valued partner Diversey, and of course the teams at BW Businessworld and BW Hotelier who make this platform possible week after week, season after season for the last 4 years. This season has been built around one powerful theme: India at the hospitality inflection point, redefining excellence across every stage segment. And today's episode takes us into one of the most commercially relevant conversations in hospitality: speed, scale, and simplicity winning the volume game. Across India, hotels operating at volume are under constant pressure to do more. Faster check-ins, sharper turnaround, leaner teams, stronger consistency, smarter cost control, and a guest who still expects a seamless experience every single time. So the real question is, how do general managers build scale without creating complexity? And how do they ensure simplicity becomes a competitive advantage rather than a compromise? To moderate this important conversation, I'm delighted to welcome Tejus Jose. Tejus is the Director of Operations, IBIS and IBIS Styles India. He's a leader who understands scale, process, discipline, and performance-led hospitality, perhaps as well as anyone in the industry. Tejus, welcome, and wonderful to have you with us, my brother.
Thank you so much, Bhuvanesh ji. It's an absolute delight to be part of this session. And I'm so happy to have this great set of general managers who will be part of this call. Hospitality at scale is ultimately a game of disciplined execution, undoubtedly. The guest may only see the final experience, but behind this experience lies process, clarity, team agility, speed of response, and a fundamental ability to simplify without diluting the quality or any other aspect of the business. So I'm delighted to be here with such a strong panel once again of general managers who are each going through this beautiful journey, which is also a challenge in a very different operating environments for each of them. So happy to let this begin and get the ball rolling.
So I couldn't have asked for a better introduction to the show, and that sets the tone, Tejas. So with your permission, if I may begin introducing the general managers?
Yes, please. Thank you, by all means.
All right. First one off the blocks and into the show is Manuj Bahl, who's the Cluster General Manager, Wyndham Garden, Udaipur, Howard Johnson, Udaipur, Ramada, Encore, Udaipur. That's quite a large gathering of hotels that you head, Manuj.
Good evening, Mr. Khanna. Hi, Tejas. Totally delighted to be here.
Need to switch on your camera.
Certainly, sir.
Yeah.
I'm totally delighted to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Mr. Khanna, and sincerely looking for a great time with the fellow panelists here. Thank you, Jose.
The pleasure is ours. Thank you, Manuj.
Glad to have you.
Next in is Amit Sethi, who's the General Manager of the Best Western Maharani Bagh in New Delhi. Welcome to the show, Amit. You're muted. Unmute yourself.
Ooh, thank you, Mr. Khanna. Looking forward to an engaging session and to an insightful one. Thank you.
Thank you, Amit. Welcome to the show. Next in is Prakash Mahato, who's the Cluster General Manager East for Fortune Park Hotels. Welcome to the show, Prakash.
Thank you, Mr. Khanna. Thank you, Tejas. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Prakash. My old friend who's attended every season, Mohammad Shoeb, who's the Vice President, Northern Region for Pride Hotels Group. Welcome to the show, Shoeb.
Thank you very much for having me on the show, Mr. Khanna. Thank you very much for the continued better day, and I wish all the best to all the fellow panelists. Thanks to BW as well. Tejas, nice to see you after a long gap.
Likewise, Shoeb.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome again, Shoeb. Next in is Rohit Mallick, who's the General Manager for the Welcome Hotel by ITC Hotels in Alkapuri, Vadodaraq, one of my favorite cities. Welcome to the show, Rohit.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Khanna, for having me here. Good evening, everyone. Look forward to participating in today's discussion. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you, Rohit. Last but not the least, Somrup Chanda. He's the General Manager for the Fairfield by Marriott, Kolkata. Welcome to the show, Somrup.
Thank you, Bhuvanesh ji. Thank you, Tejas. Thank you, fellow panelists. And amazing to be here in this distinguished panel and looking forward to a meaningful conversation forward. Thank you.
Lovely. We've set the context. We've done the introduction. We've introduced the show. It's now that time on the clock where we get rolling with our first question. And Tejas, if I may get rolling with you first, and we will truly set up the session. May I?
Yes, please.
All right, Tejas, tell me, across high volume hotels, growth often creates complexity faster than systems can absorb. You know, you've played that game, you head that portfolio. There is nobody standing over here who can do a better response than you. Tell me, in your view, what separates hotels that scale efficiently from those that simply become busier without becoming better?
Thank you. It's one of the most rudimentary aspects of our business, I think. And I think at the core of it lies a process discipline. Because if there is no process, the whole system can quickly collapse, and then you're just firefighting. And once firefighting becomes a norm, then there's no more trust and faith in process. So I think process sits at the core of consistency, and it has to be foundational in our business. And you know, as an offshoot of process is standardization, right? Because when you have processes in place, they come with standards that are defined, and every brand may have its own standards. However, standards are an extension of process. Standards generally may more often than not relate to product offering, while processes encompass the standard product offering plus the service aspect of it. So I think process is a wider term, while standardization is something that is largely product specific. And these things can only be achieved once you have a fair amount of operational simplicity. Because in most mid-scale hotels, you know, the number of employees or team members you have is not a luxury of large number of sets of hands. Hands on the deck are limited, and therefore it's important and imperative that there is simplicity. Combined with the fact that a lot of mid-scale hotels, the team is fairly young, lots of freshers. So if we don't complicate and keep it simple, your chances of success are significantly higher. And I think that becomes therefore a fundamental leadership choice. And of course, there's no denying that if you have all these things lined up properly, then scaling is far more easier. And this scale needs that consistency, which comes from process, standardization, simplicity, and then comes scale, which is the cherry on the icing, so to speak. And since we have this gathering of all leaders here, I think there is no taking away the fact that none of this is possible if there is no general manager sitting on top, looking at the business in the entirety of it, and making sure that the plan is executed. Because it's great to have a process, it's great to have standardization, it's fantastic to talk about simplicity, consistency, and all those things, but none of that will happen if that business leader sitting right on top is not going to make sure that that execution on ground is implemented and consistently implemented. It's that moment of truth, as you call it, when the rubber hits the road, and that has to be done by the general manager. So that's how I would summarize my view of this question.
I don't think there's anybody who could have summed this up better and articulated this better. I don't even know what process goes inside your head that you're able to conceptualize this entire response, but fantastic. And this is like clockwork and just what the doctor wanted for the show. So that stays, right? One of my best responses as yet. Thank you, Tejas. This is your show. Now let me do the next best thing after the apple dropped. I'll hand the baton to you, and it's your show to take ahead.
Thank you, Bhuvanesh. Thank you very much. Like I said earlier, it's an absolute privilege and pleasure to be part of this group. I have tremendous respect for what you've been doing so far, for the industry, and gratitude, lots of gratitude. And I'm sure I speak for all of us on this show, not just the panelists, but the whole industry as such. Thank you again. And I'm going to jump right into my question for Manuj. Hi there, Manuj. Thanks for coming on this call.
Pleasure,
and thank you again. And we're going to dabble in many aspects of what we just discussed, and Bhuvanesh ji helped set the tone. My question to you, would be more to is contextual in nature to what happens with multiple properties, right? You have many of us manage multiple properties, and managing multiple properties in a cluster, demands a lot from the leadership. And just as much as it demands from the leadership, it also expects an operational rhythm, at the same time, not losing focus of what the brand expects from you. So Manuj, how do you ensure speed, consistency across 3 different hotel formats without allowing operational overlap to become confusion, right? It's easy because you have different brands that you're managing. It can be easy for you to really lose track, or your team to lose track, and try and bring consistency, which is not what the brand wants you to do because they're distinct identities. So how do you manage that piece?
Great question, Tejas. I believe ensuring speed and consistency across 3 different formats, practically with the same brand, beliefs do require the clarity as compared to the complexity part on that part. Approach is built around structure coordination. The ownership of basically in regards to the properties has to be with the cluster GM, a centralized approach on that part. Disciplined execution, that's the most important and the most difficult part to do that. Planning is much easier part to do that. Execution is always most difficult. And being very clear about what's been shared and what remains the distinct. So the background practically, whether it is the finance, whether it's a procurement, whether it's a training, learning and development parts of that, all is basically centralized. And it's basically the core of that part. But the property level, the guest approach, the food and beverage identity, the performance tracking, the risk management, all these are basically at the unit level. And that needs to be very, very distinctive on that part. I'm very deliberate about shared resources versus the brand identity part on that part. As I have one property which is basically on the luxury side, and 2 of the properties are primarily on the mid-economy side. So obviously the guest rituals, the offering is going to be very much different from what one property offer to the another one. But the guest is not aware of that. So for them, what they've been paying, they expected that they basically get it from the property. So the core is always going to be the same on that part, and we plan it that way. But at the unit level, it's practically more of in regards to the very distinct on that part. My procurement processes, the brand ritual which is happening at the different properties are much, much different. I rely more on the cluster leadership model in that part. That helps also because what happens is that once you have a cluster leadership, the culture is very much defined. You do not have a tendency, or you don't get into the rut of everybody doing something different on that part, and nobody's knowing what's happening at the property level. So
Sure.
we have a very strong leadership at the unit level, who are totally independent in regards. So no micromanagement on that part. They have all the delegation authority to take the calls on that, so that the guest goes happily from there. The ownership management comes to the cluster role. So basically, we have a team which takes care of the different owners. So I have practically 3 properties, but I have 5 owners to manage. So ownership is totally another different part on that way. At the same time, we keep very practical and very easy. We try to make things very simple. I just give a very simple example. Very first year when we opened up, and we had a plan of opening 3 to 4 properties in Udaipur itself, as a cluster within a span of 5 years. We took a very, in a hindsight, I'll say a very smart move. We hired locally. And happy to share that my 27% of my team members in my cluster come from very small place called Bhilwara, which is basically a Bhil area. So we train them, we retain them, and that basically helps a lot. It thinks very clear. Do not add on any complexity on that. I
Great.
believe that what I can basically pinpoint something out of the mind on that right now.
No, thank you, Manuj. Thank you for your point of view on that. And you know, every market can be different and can be complex in its own way. I'm going to train my next question to Amit. Once again, Amit, thanks for joining us on this call.
Thank you, Tejus.
You know, in urban business markets, you see that volume is often driven by efficiency, right? Repeat demand, location-led convenience, and that becomes your foundational USP. So, Amit, in a market like Delhi, what operational habit most directly helps a hotel win the volume game without compromising on the guest satisfaction? Because sometimes, you know, you go after volume and you're not able to get the guest satisfaction, the quality that you want to give. How do you manage that?
See, first and foremost, when it comes to compromising on guest satisfaction, that is something, I mean, none of us even think of, for sure. I would pick up a point from, you know, what you were explaining, and our colleague Manuj just spoke of. He spoke of, you spoke of simplicity, and he spoke of how he picked up people from the local areas, hilly areas nearby. That actually gives an edge to the statement that hospitality is 80% common sense. It is actually common sense. We try to keep things simple and yet personal, very much personal, while sticking to our SOPs, processes, and, you know, I mean, the trainings, which is consistent, which is required, and yet keeping in mind that what a guest would expect from any hotel or any service, or while buying any product for that matter. What they expect today is convenience at all times. That is how, you know, we are going for everything, every little thing we go online. Why? Because it is convenient for us and it is simple. I would quote an example. If you stay at my hotel, we try, it's about 95% we do it. You check out and we email you the invoice. We don't want you to follow up with us. We understand that today, if Tejas checks out, he may have to get it reimbursed from the company. So why not just email it firsthand, so that, you know, before he reaches home, he has his invoice intact, which he can forward while he's still traveling. So there's so many things. We keep on updating our guest profiles. We know, even, you know, I mean, if you have a coffee today at my hotel, next time they would know what you prefer, a sugar-free, or you prefer a demerara, or you prefer white sugar, or you take a black coffee, or a type of coffee you have. So all these simple things. And yes, I encourage my team. I mean, encourage in sense, I allow them to make mistakes. That is what I tell them when I engage them. The first meeting that I have with them, whenever I hire them, I say, you are allowed to make mistakes. Just ensure you learn from it, and you share it with your colleagues, you know, I mean, what mistakes you made and what you learned from it, so that not everyone repeats the same mistake again.
Sure.
So all this together, you know, and when you're not scaring them, that keeps them together. And that is how they feel all the more driven to keep the guests happy. Yeah, I think that sums it up.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I think keeping the team enthused and energized at all times and allowing them to make that decision, even if that means it's a wrong decision, it's brilliant. And I think that's very foundational in building great culture. So kudos to you for that.
Thank you.
My next one is to Prakash. Prakash, welcome for coming on the call. It's fantastic to have you.
Thank
You
you.
know, in cluster and regional operating structures, often uniformity is something that you expect. It's very different from what market realities are. So, Prakash, how do you simplify operations across multiple, Eastern markets while still respecting the local realities of each hotel? So in a macro perspective, it may look something similar to somebody who's looking from the outside. But when you're on ground, you will realize that, hey, while it's in a same region, but in a micro market sense, it's very different. So how do you deal with that?
So interesting question, Tejas. Now, Fortune Hotels in the eastern region, we operate hotels across interesting locations. I'll tell you, I have a hotel. There's a Fortune Hotel in Puri. There's a Fortune Hotel in Bhubaneswar. There's a Fortune in Calcutta. One is opening up soon. Then Durgapur, Siliguri, and Kalimpong. If you see all these hotels, they have a different business pattern. Some are weekday heavy and the others are weekend heavy. Heavy means very heavy. So now we have kept our approach with regard to operations very simple. We are very clear on certain things which are non-negotiables and certain things where we are flexible. So our basics like our brand promise, the hygiene standards, service culture, and voice of customer benchmarks, they are same everywhere, irrespective of the location or the city that you operate in. Now, at the same time, we also allow local adaptation. For example, a leisure destination like a Puri or Kalimpong will have a different set of guests. They are from a different segment. The expectations are different, and the expectation of a guest staying at a Durgapur or a Calcutta hotel are totally different. Our food offerings, they are made locally. The pricing strategy, even the service styles, they are aligned to the local demand. Our teams, they are trained on the basic, the brand standards, and they're also parallelly empowered to take decisions based on the market realities. So at Fortune Hotels, simplicity comes from, standardizing the essentials while giving our hotels the flexibility to stay locally relevant. So that's an approach that we have across the hotels that we operate in. So what do you, Tejas?
Super, Prakash. I think you've summarized it beautifully. And I'm actually in my mind imagining what you do. So the next question comes to Mohammad Shoeb. Shoeb, one more time, welcome to the meeting. It's fantastic to have you here. Shoeb, are you there? I think you're on mute, Shoeb. You're mute again. Shoeb, I'll get to the question in the context of what we have here for you and for your insight. Is when you're operating portfolios expand, from let's say 3 hotels to 6 hotels or 8 hotels, whatever that expansion is, the volume leadership becomes as much about controlling systems as much as guest experience. So, Shoeb, from a regional leadership perspective, what tends to break first when hotels chase volume aggressively? And it's not easy. Scaling up and growing your volume is not easy. It comes with its own challenges. How do you, as a GM, safeguard and make sure that scaling up doesn't become detrimental in terms of the experience? How do you deal with that?
It's a very valid question. Tejas, you are in AeroCity and you understand the complexities of business here. AeroCity is the most dynamic hospitality zone in the country and is the only hospitality district, purpose-built hospitality district in the country. As far as my experience is concerned, I handle a diverse portfolio of almost 11 hotels in my region, including Delhi. I operate from here. Delhi itself is a very high-paced hotel where we have volumes. And almost 40% of our days in Delhi are sold out. We do an occupancy of more than 85% in this hotel. And as you are aware, in AeroCity, the average length of stay is not more than 1.5 days, which means we are an airport hotel with rapid pace, and a lot happens around us.
I think we seem to be
Fatigue
having
sets in.
trouble. Sorry, we
The
just lost you there
fatigue,
for a second, Shoeb. If you could repeat
yeah.
your last sentence, please.
Yeah. So first thing what happens is that when you trade volumes and when you aggressively chase volumes, is your services, gets hampered, and the services become uneven. The second thing which happens when you have large volume is that the staff gets fatigued. So what we ensure in our hotel is that you also put a lot of emphasis in your opening note about the consistency in services. So we make sure that there is, the processes are strengthened in our hotel, which is a very high-paced volume hotel. Number two, we ensure that the teams are absolutely trained. They are multi-skilled. They are also, empowered all the time to take decisions. So very, very important thing is that we have to have implementation of SOPs. We have to also ensure that the entire leadership team, which is available in the hotel, is available during the peak periods. And I always ask my team, are we ready to take 100% occupancy? So it makes a lot of difference when our leadership team and HODs and GMs are available during the peak hours to negotiate with that. On a given day, when we have full occupancy, which is every second day almost, we have 650 people dining for breakfast. So we all have to be available to ensure if there is any guest resentment which can be immediately catered to. Also, staffs feel very, very nice when a senior leadership team is around them. Any decision can be taken very, very quickly. Resentments can be handled. Team can be empowered. So hands-on approach is very, very important in high volume. Also, it is very, very important that in high volumes, the planning, shift-wise planning in the hotel is imperative. So, I mean, I would like to put a lot of emphasis on team management and to drive the efficiency. So it's a lot of volume in AeroCity where we go with efficiency, and that's how we have very wonderful guest experience scores and everything. So during the speed, it is very important that we keep our head cool and ensure that every single guest is attended to properly. Thank you.
Shoeb, thank you for that lovely answer. For those who think that Shoeb's life is difficult, it is not. He's told that it is very, very busy every day. So he's just having a chill time. Shoeb, well done.
Thank you.
Just kidding. But thank you for that answer, Shoeb. It was very nice. My next question goes to Rohit. Welcome on the show, Rohit. Thank you for coming on the call.
Thank you.
Hotels in fast emerging commercial cities must often operate with big expectations, right? Our guest expectations are fairly high, owners' expectations are fairly high, but highly disciplined economics is also required. So Rohit, how do you maintain premium service sharpness while operating in a market that still demands volume-led value? What are your views on that?
Thanks, Tejas. Very, very pertinent question. As you rightly mentioned, in fast emerging cities, which are very often in tier 2 cities, like the city where I am currently in, Vadodaraq, where hotels face this dual challenge of offering the best value to the clients. And at the same time, we have to manage our costs very effectively. So there's always this balancing route that we end up taking, wherein we have to enable premium perception for the guests. And at the same time, we have to make sure that our costings and our cost structure is highly optimized. So I think what we end up doing in this kind of scenario in our hotels, we create this premium perception to the service quality and the service excellence levels, be it right from the stage of hiring itself, because we all know that we have to operate with the minimum number of, assigned number of team members in every department. So you get the hiring right from the day when you start training them and getting them into our service culture rituals, so that these highly trained associates, they end up providing high quality training to our guests in tier 2 cities. And very often we see from those simple gestures that our associates are able to create for these guests, what results into exceptional moments of truth, as some of my colleagues discuss. So we also make sure that things like multi-skilling of our staff members, making sure that smart deployment of resources happen. That's also undertaken by studying the patterns of arrivals of check-ins, check-outs, or peak period movement. I think Shoeb also mentioned beautifully about it that in times of breakfast or those golden hours when what we mentioned about in terms of breakfast or a peak period, where all the heads of departments get together and manage those moments of truth together. I think that's another way that we do. But in all this, I think what we clearly try to set the expectation is for the clients, because what we've also seen over the years that the same set of guests have experienced our own hotels in tier 1 cities, let's say a Delhi, Bombay, or an Ahmedabad for us. And they end up coming straight to us in a tier 2 city with the same, company, right? Although in a different brand. So their service quality level expectations remain the same. While they very well understand it's a different brand, but that's where the balancing act needs to be done by all of us on the shop floor. So we also try and create, in order to give them the perception of value, things like for a hotel like us, it becomes easier because we are a 40-year-old hotel in the city of Vadodara. So we have created those indigenous and exceptional moments that can live up to our ethos of enriching experiences. Where, for example, we do art shows in the hotel, art tour. We are blessed to have an art gallery with about 600 original art pieces. So things like that, making sure that some of our services are also very, very pocket friendly. That goes as part of our communication to the guests. Very often these services need to be communicated to our clients. For example, we have a concept of single diner meals, wherein you are traveling alone, mostly in a business city. You end up ordering and wasting a lot of food. So you come up with a small bento box kind of structure, which is very, very pocket friendly, or even a minibar pricing for that matter. It is almost very close to the MRP is what we call. So in the end, what we try to promise our guests is that we have great service culture, we have great service ethos, and sometimes small is also beautiful in our mind. So,
Sure.
And at the end of the day, for the back ending, for our heads of departments, for our associates, we keep doing those steps in terms of multi-skilling, in terms of making sure efficient process management keep happening. In case there are any delays or in case there are any failures which are happening, we go back to the drawing board and we try and assign the reasons for it and come out from it without impacting too much on our cost structures. So yeah, in short, what I would communicate is that we have a clear service design. It needs to be communicated well to our end clients, having those failure mechanisms in place, and having a very strong backup of service culture through our well-trained associates, which really gives that value perception to our guests in tier 2 cities.
Sure. Thank you so much, Rohit. I must say the image of your hotel and the backdrop looks absolutely gorgeous. And I'm sure that's a representation of not just the hotel, but also the people who work there.
Yes. For everyone,
good on you, Rohit.
This was the first 5-star hotel of Gujarat, which was inaugurated in 1986. So that's it completes 40 years today.
Brilliant. Okay, so my next question goes to Somrup. Somrup, the high volume city hotels often succeed not through, just a lot of bells and whistles and extravagance, but through reliability and consistency and repeatability. So in your experience, what does simplicity look like operationally when the guest still expects speed, warmth, and yet consistency at scale? How do you make that happen? What do you think are the key drivers for that?
Thank you, Tejas. Thank you, everyone. And it's an amazing question. I think every day, I can speak on behalf of everyone, we deal with this question, how to keep things simple. But the most important part is, I say, we are in a generation where we have seen how the operations were without the technology, and now as the technology is evolving, whether it is mobile key or whether it is how the guest gets different softwares and technical abilities to communicate faster. I think we have seen the best of both the worlds, and we are also learning. And I think it's very important that we keep things simple. So to start with, it's very important to unbundle the bundle of tasks. I think I'll put it that way. I think we understand that, what are the different dynamics of groups versus FITs versus our elite guest on a day-to-day basis. So I think it's very important that, someone told in this forum that leadership presence. I think Mr. Shoeb mentioned that is very important. I think our main job from start of the day to the end of the day is how do we understand the bundle of tasks and unbundle it. For that, I have 3 or 4 points which I would mention in this forum that which makes the job very simple. Is I think we have to empower our team, encourage our team with training, but we also need to drive a sense of accountability when we do that entire empowerment dynamics. And the second is, I think when I speak to my associates, a lot of them are very good at delivering or executing different operational aspects of the day. But when it comes to compliances, they say that there's a lot of paperwork. I have to do this, I have to do that. But I think it's very important that we come out with a system and procedure on a day-to-day task, allocation of associates, doing an operations meeting daily for the next day, whether the next day is busy or not. It's very important to set the culture right. And I think simplicity in operation means also creating various service model where those are process driven but aligned with various grace touch points. I would like to conclude my point here. It's very important for every hotel to understand what are the key touch points when you offer a volume business. For someone, a check-in, check-out can be a guest touch point, understanding how many check-ins you are taking versus how many counters you have. But some hotels, maybe the porch is a key touch point. For some hotel, maybe the elevator experience is a touch point. For some hotel, maybe the room size versus what elites want is a key touch point. So I think we need to think out of the box to define each hotel's key touch points and then unbundle the task to make it very simple. And then thank you for this question, and I concluded that way.
Thanks, Somrup. I think that was beautifully said. I like the way I think the key word that I would say is the unbundling of the bundle. And I think I like the way you've phrased that, and it's so critical because when you look at things that is in one bunch, and when you look at the bunch, it can really baffle you. But I think to unbundle it and see what needs what kind of attention, I think is a great way of looking at that. Fantastic. Thank you, Somrup.
So they just come to the intermission time. So we'll take a short 20-second break and circle back.
Thank you.
At Diversi, we believe it is our mission to protect and care for people and their environment every day. Pioneering future-focused cleaning and hygiene solutions. Trust the experts to select the best hygiene technology matching your site's challenges and your sustainability vision. Diversi, your global partner for responsible hygiene solutions.
We're now coming to that very interesting part in the year and in the series where I want to introduce the next BW Hotelier Indian Hospitality Summit and Awards. It's due on the 24th and 25th of September this year at the JW Marriott, New Delhi Aero City. I would like all of you to block your time, block your dates. It's 2 days of serious discussions, lots of fun, lot of camaraderie, and networking and meeting all faces that you've not seen in years, right? Perhaps many you keep meeting, there'll be many you don't get to meet. Let me tell you, BW Hotelier keeps upping the game, and we shall not disappoint. The bar is being clearly raised. And this is going to be the 10th IHA, as we call the IHA. So be there, lock your time, and see you at the show. Tejas, back to you. If I may, set and get down to setting context for the second half of the show. Tell me, Tejas, as hospitality becomes more system-led and performance-driven, simplicity itself is becoming a serious strategic advantage. We first complicate things, then we simplify. But like you did say in your earlier response, it's all about processes, right? So tell me, looking ahead, will the next generation of successful general managers be defined less by flamboyance and more by how effectively they can simplify complexity?
I think I think that question is far more pertinent today than a lot of other aspects of our business. And I'll explain why I say that. If you were to rewind our business to maybe 40 years ago, hoteliering was fundamentally about making sure the room and the public areas were good, clean, well maintained. The food was warm, and the food tasted good. Guests were met at check-in with a lot of soul and hospitality at check-in, check-out, genuinely go out of the way and make sure that they're looked after. And I think over a period of the last several decades and years, I think other layers have come on top of that. And those layers at some point have become far more important than the base of it. And we've got audits that have come into play. We've got technology that has come into play, and we've got food presentation has become so central to the food and beverage experience. The garnish has become more important than the food that sits under the garnish. And I think these are fundamental tectonic shifts that have happened in the way the business runs itself. And I think many times, as a process, we start putting the cart ahead of the horse, probably speaking. And I think that is where the challenge lies. So if you, as a hotelier, as a GM, and I think many times you are, as a GM, unable to really change too many things because you work within a framework given by the brand. But I think GMs will be extremely successful who can really, like, Somrup mentioned, look at that bundle, unbundle, and see what are the things that can be dealt with at your hotel level, which are not necessarily, defined to the T, and things that are defined, you keep them as they are. And simplify the whole process, because I think with simplicity, will become a strategic advantage for hotels who can do that. Because, one day suddenly you're saying, hey, your guest satisfaction scores have to be high. And just that very afternoon say, hey, why haven't you done this training? And by next morning you're saying, why isn't the barista giving you almond milk with the cappuccino? So the messaging is so confusing, because within 48 hours, there are 20 different priorities that have been forced into the minds of the team member, completely baffling that poor person. And then we say we don't see consistency because we haven't let consistency exist in the system. And consistency can exist only with simplicity. I think that's very, very foundational. I think this question is so beautiful and so pertinent today, because if you don't bring simplicity, I think you will lose the battle and you lose the war. The one who can get that simplicity right, you can nail it, I think you have massive strategic advantage. So that's how I would say the clarity that you can bring, the simplicity that you can bring, and most of all, if you can get that lightning speed in decision making, right? That's also links back to strategy. The whole team should know that if I'm a hotel which is focused on long stays, everything that you do should align to what a long staying guest wants. There's no discussion, there's no question, right? But you want to be a long staying guest hotel, you want to be a wedding hotel, you want to be a airport hotel, you want to do 20 things at the same time. If you don't have that clarity, simplicity, consistency, I think these three are the building blocks for success as I see it.
Excellent. I couldn't agree with you more. You see, I think even with what we speak, rather than import words which we may like, but the other doesn't understand, other people don't understand, will complicate. So simplify. Be it communication, be it processes, it's better to have straight lines than to do zigzags.
Absolutely.
All right. So great. Tejas, your show, back to you. Now, just a time check over here. We have 14 minutes between now and closure of the show. We have to do a rapid and the summation and all. So it's 2 minutes per response strictly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tejas.
Yes, my next question is to Manuj. Manuj, let's be mindful of time, and I'm going to ask you my next question. In cluster-led positions, talent versatility often becomes more valuable than rigid role definitions. Manuj, how important is cross-functional team capability when operating hotels designed to move at speed every day?
This is a great question. I sincerely believe we are in a world where talent there's already a war going on for the talent. We all are basically battling that on our due course each day. Cross functionality or the multitasking is not something which is nice to have. It's something which is required for the survival now. There is nothing like this is not my job. We are in the hospitality, we are in a service industry, so every work or every task is our job. And that can only happen when you have a team which has basically been trained on all these sectors. So maybe a front office guy can give a helping hand to a concierge, or a concierge can change the bed sheets, and maybe a housekeeping guy can be a great barista. So there's no limit on that part. And gone are the days when people were in silos. Those days are already gone practically a decade back. And the way the industry is moving, we are not getting team members at the associate level because our IHMs are not filled, our private colleges are not filled. We are battling something very, very extremely difficult task and difficult times ahead. We are not the first choice. We are not even the fifth choice for anybody who's basically graduating right now in the market. Hospitality industry is definitely way below at the ladder. And only way is that what we have right now after the COVID specifically, because we lost a lot of manpower at that time. So whosoever come back to the industry, let's cherish them, let's hold them. And cross functionality or the multitask is the only way ahead. As I said, it's not a nice to have, it's the survival mode now.
Thanks, Manuj. I think that's so pertinent and true every day. Thanks for that. My next question is to Amit. Amit, volume hotels don't always get a second chance. The guest decides quickly whether the experience works or it doesn't work. So which guest touch point today most strongly determines whether a high volume hotel wins repeat business or not? What are your views on that? Amit, you're on mute. Amit, you muted yourself. Yeah, okay, great. Thank you.
Sorry. See, high volume hotels can definitely win repeat business. Rather, a lot of repeat business we have in our hotel. Like I said in my earlier response as well, your personal touch, that counts a lot. Gradually, see, it is about knowing how banks work, the KYC they do, know your customer, know your client. The same way, maybe it is knowing your guest as much as possible, sharing the data within the system, updating everyone about their preferences. If it's a high volume hotel, the check-in check-out speed matters really. It matters how much time you take to educate or to inform the guest about the hotel, what all facilities you have. So maybe not to stop him there at the reception, maybe just accompany him, escort him to the room, explain him about the facilities that you have, highlight that your minibar is actually on MRP. We don't look at it as a profit center, but as a facility that we extend. How reliable your housekeeping is. For a small thing, if they've given some laundry and they need to check out early in the morning, they need a laundry back in time.
Sure.
So all these small things, your F&B conveniences, like I mentioned in my previous answer, knowing what coffee Tejas likes. So today if Tejas tells me about it, I'm sure I'm going to make a note of it and keep in mind, when he comes next time.
Sure.
So all these, repeat state triggers are there. Whatever you can know and whatever you can feed in the system about the guest, the more you know them, the more you understand them, and they feel the comfort.
Thank you. Thank you,
keeping
Amit.
it simple and yet at pace with their requirement.
Sure. I think this is at the core of hospitality, I guess. Thank you for that, Amit.
Thank you.
My next question is to Prakash. As hospitality brands grow deeper into India, scale will increasingly depend on local execution rather than central intent alone. So Prakash, what leadership discipline helps ensure that operating scale does not become operating inconsistency? That's a real problem that many hotels face. What are your views on that?
Sure, I'll take it forward from what Mr. Rohit Mallick said. Small is beautiful. Small is beautiful, and if you see every beautiful hotel, there's a very strong and a disciplined team behind. So as we scale across markets, the biggest challenge is to ensure that our consistency or the discipline is not diluted. At our hotel, Fortune Hotels, we have a very strong culture of regular audits, and we all are used to it. We have the mystery audit, the HS audits, the weekly kitchen hygiene audits, the finance audits, etc. So a team member from day one knows what is right and what is not right. The audits, we do is not just for compliance. It's a tool that we use continuously, to check the alignment of our brand standards. And if there are any gaps, we identify them early.
Sure.
And equally important is the leadership visibility at a cluster or a regional role. You have to be connected with the hotel team on ground, and you see what challenges they face and you address them then and there. And we on SOPs, we have kept our process very simple. Our strong training module, keeps a check on it. And I'd say the regional accountability also plays a big role. Each hotel and a cluster is responsible for delivering the brand promise and managing their local realities. So with that, I'll conclude, Tejas.
Thank you so much. There's brevity of time that we're fighting. So I'm going to ask my next question to Shoeb and request him to make it succinct and short. Volume-led hospitality often rewards those who remove friction faster than competitors, and that becomes an advantage. Shoeb, what is one necessary complexity that more hotels should eliminate immediately if they want to perform better at scale? Shoeb, you're on mute.
One of the biggest unnecessary complexities which we face in day-to-day life is the multi-layered decision-making and not empowering the team. So what we have done in our hotel is that we have decentralized the authority with a lot of respect to the employees. And if we decentralize and empower them, they can take the decisions faster. That's point number one. Point number two is that when the team has clarity and authority, executions become faster and efficient. Second thing which I want to highlight here is the work culture in the hotel. So the work culture in the hotel has to be built by the GM along with the HODs and a key KRA for the director of HR as well. So if you talk about the work culture, in my hotel, if I talk about my perspective in this hotel, our employee opinion score for the last 2 years are about 98 and above. And our guest satisfaction scores are 95 and above. And we have broken all financial records in this year. So employee happiness translated into the guest happiness, translated into the financial results of the hotel. I always say that people will never be enough if you don't know how to use them. So I think creating a cohesive culture in the hotel with a lot of mutual respect for each other, simplifying your standard operating procedure, making more interesting, and if you take care of your employee well-being and health, I think that's the mantra.
Thank you so much, Shoeb. That was so nicely put. My next question is to Rohit. Rohit, the strongest operating hotels often make efficiency feel effortless to the guest. How do you create that sense of smoothness and control, even on a busiest operating days at your hotel?
Okay, so very quickly, just a few thoughts that I can share. That we must remember that as hoteliers, the smoothness can come on the shop floor. It's never ever accidental. It is all a result of careful pre-planning. So what I very often tell my young managers who join shop floor, quality cannot be controlled. You have to create quality. You have to enable quality. And one of my colleagues, Prakash, also mentioned about several audits. Many times we feel it's impediment, but actually they are enablers, great enablers to our service standards. So as most of my colleagues have spoken, it's about well-trained associates, multi-skilling, moving staff resources from one department to the other department. And so that there are no surprises. Everything has to be planned. Everything has to be, kept ready in advance to enable that smoothness of the service quality, which, especially in a tier 2 city where we operate with a lot of constraints, is what helps us. Also, one element of flexibility is always there, because we are always there when guest comes with some last moment request, sudden walk-in arrivals, which happens. All those flexibility, if we build in enough of flexibility along with the failure mechanism in terms of either the associate is empowered, like what the Shoeb mentioned, or if he is not, then who's the next go-to person? Who's the next escalation matrix, right? And that's when guests, even if they have had any inconvenience during the stay, they go back as our ambassadors only to come back again. So these are
Sure.
my few points. How do we make it smooth as far as operations?
Thanks so much, Rohit. My next question is to Somrup. Somrup, thanks for your patience. As branded hospitality grows more competitive, speed alone is not enough unless it is matched by consistency. What will ultimately define the winners in high volume hospitality over the next few years? According to you, is it going to be speed, scale, or just simplicity?
It's always a benefit to speak last in the forum because I think the answers are always on screen. But but great question. I think I have only quickly I want to say that culture. We need all three. We need a different point of time in a hotel. We need speed, we need scale, we need simplicity. But I would say I have a magical word which I keep talking in my hotel also. I think it's very important to engage and elevate. So, engage and elevate applies for the guest, and engage and elevate is very, very important for all so-called back of the house department. But I don't like that word back of the house anymore. I think the finance, HR, everybody is equally responsible to drive simplicity in operations. So I think it's very important that as a hotel, we drive culture through very engaging atmosphere for all leaders all across the board. Point number two, I would like to say that it's very important in today's world to drive volume business with simplicity is not top to down approach, top to bottom approach. It's very important to go horizontal flat, get all the mid-level managers, and there are a lot of departments where you do not have a manager, but they are key associates like AYS or
Sure.
a communication center or reservations. I think their inclusions in taking important decisions of the day are very, very important.
Sure.
So yeah, engage and elevate, and thank you so much.
Thanks, Somrup. That brings us to the part of our call.
Tejas, between you and me, I'm super impressed by the responses. This is a great catalog to keep going back to for all those seekers who want to know what to do and what not to do and how to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like a masterclass.
Responses to every response. I was just messaging my colleagues. I was super impressed. With your moderation, with the way these gentlemen have spoken. I think they're great brand ambassadors for the industry, their brands and hotels. Having said that, Tejas, I'm sure you agree. Why don't you start doing the closing part of the ceremony?
Sure, absolutely. So, in summary, what comes through strongly from today's discussion is that scale in hospitality is no longer just about just size. It's about intelligently and consistently bringing that size is being managed properly. Manuj brought out the importance of disciplined cluster leadership and how multiple brands can move in sync without losing operational clarity. Amit told all of us that fast-paced city markets, repeat business is often won through reliability in the smallest but most important guest touch points. Prakash offered a valuable regional lens, talking about how highlighting standardization must still allow for local market realities and execution differences. Cannot be one size that fits all. Shoeb rightly pointed out the risks of unmanaged growth and why control systems and leadership oversight are essential when chasing volume. You also mentioned about the fact that you need to be on the shop floor when the action is happening. Rohit reinforced that even value-conscious or volume-led markets still expect service sharpness and a sense of premium confidence. That's something that you cannot do without. Somrup, captured beautifully how simplicity, repeatability, and clean execution often define success, far more than the complexity can ever do. And I think that's a great takeaway as I see it. So I think collectively, like you rightly said, there's a great exchange of ideas and management style and observation and insights that we were exchanging today. I think the future winners in hospitality will not simply be the biggest operators, but the ones who can deliver speed, scale, and fundamentally be simple at the same time. And I think that will win the day. And this needs to be done day in and day out for that amazing winning streak.
I couldn't agree with you more. Why don't we do a quick run of the rapid sign-off?
Sure. Since we have some time at our hand, I'm going to jump right in, and I'm going to say out a sentence, and I'm going to ask our panelists to complete that sentence. It's like one of those fill in the blanks things back in school. One sharp closing response from each of you. That's what I'd like. Hotels win the volume game when, and this question is to Manuj. Hotels win the volume game when?
I think when they're clued on, they do require that sort of clarity. So the word is definitely going to be the clarity on that. But scale and simplicity definitely is there, but the clarity has to be there.
Right. Hotel win the volume game when, Amit, what's your point of view? How do you fill that out? Amit Sethi?
When expectations meet reality.
Great.
Yeah. When expectations are met with reality in time, within stipulated time and at speed.
3 words.
Thank you. Prakash, hotels win the volume game when?
When you have a disciplined team.
Fantastic. Shoeb, hotels win the volume game when? Shoeb, you're on mute.
When planning and execution is flawless and immaculate.
Fantastic. Rohit, Mallick, hotels win the volume game when?
And you can offer a great attention to details.
Thank you, Rohit. Somrup, how do you complete that sentence? Hotel win the volume game.
When leadership is part of the team, is not managing the positions they are or we are, and I think the leadership is part of the team, simplicity will just follow.
Brilliant. Like I said to Bhuvanesh earlier, I think this is like a masterclass in how to run hotels and how to make things work at a
I hope you
at a
did
hotel
enjoy
level.
the session as much as I did.
I can't express my excitement about hosting this show. It's been fantastic.
Lovely. So Tejas, first of all, let me thank you for this wonderful show. I couldn't have asked for better moderation and a better anchor to partner the show with me. And let me also thank all our colleagues on the show, the general managers, for such a practical, relevant, and deeply insightful conversation. I come out assured that the industry is in good hands, seeing what you people bring to the table. And also a huge thank you to Diversity. I think Diversity is put where their money is, put their money where their mouth is. They're supporting this industry, and it's 4 seasons running. And if you are able to watch the show, and we're able to do 30 to 36 shows every season, it's all thanks to Diversity. A huge shout out for you, Diversity. Thank you so much. And also a huge thank you to BW Businessworld and BW Hotelier teams, to all the viewers who continue to support and strengthen this platform season after season. And as we move through the final week of season 4, I want to say this with genuine gratitude. This season has opened and continued with some of the strongest viewership the GM show has ever seen. And that tells us one thing clearly: the voice of India's general managers matters more than ever before. From India's metros to emerging markets, from luxury to lean formats, and even extending the season into Sri Lanka with last Friday's very, very special international episode. This show has continued to grow in relevance, reach, and resonance, and that is because of all of you. I'd request all our viewers, speakers, moderators, industry friends to continue sharing the episode links across your teams, companies, networks, WhatsApp groups, and do also revisit the recordings of this season, past seasons, and all the episodes of the GM show. There's a great catalog out there that is available across BW Hotelier's platform, be it social media or bwhotelier.com. At BW Hotelier, we remain true to our credo. We are a 24/7 medium like the industry itself. And here at BW Hotelier, we say the sun never sets. So do stay with us, because we all continue to innovate, surprise, and build more meaningful conversations through new formats, new shows, both virtual and on-ground experiences. And before I sign off, a very important date for your calendars. Block your dates for the IHA 2026, Thursday and Friday, September 24 and 25, 2026 at the JW Marriott, New Delhi Aerocity. 2 full days, big ideas, big conversations, big recognition. And in under 2 months, the IHA 2026 nominations will open. So be ready, get set, go. Thank you once again for joining us. We look forward to seeing you at the next episode as we begin closing out the season. Let me also say thank you for being part of the season 4, and we look forward to welcoming you back in season 5 in 2026. Namaste, good evening. Don't go away as yet. Let me sign off with diversity.
At Diversey, we believe it is our mission to protect and care for people and their environment every day. Pioneering future-focused cleaning and hygiene solutions. Trust the experts to select the best hygiene technology matching your site's challenges and your sustainability vision. Diversey, your global partner for responsible hygiene solutions.
And like I said, the last word is always mine. In hospitality, scale may build presence, but simplicity is what builds trust. That is, in sum, the takeaway from today's episode. Before I close the show, a huge thank you to you, Tejus. Thank you for being there.
It's a pleasure.
Made the show fantastic. And thank you, gentlemen. Let me begin by thanking you, Prakash, Manuj, Shoeb, Rohit, Amit, and Somrup. It's been a delight being on the same show and platform as you guys have been today. I didn't know how this show would go, but I'm excited because most of you were first-timers. But thank you. I loved the show. I hope you did too.
Totally enjoyed it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Truly enjoyed it. Thank you so
May I
much.
take
Thank you.
a second
Thank you, Mr. Khanna.
and
Thank
use
you.
this forum to say something?
Yeah, go
Bhuvanesh ji?
ahead. Go ahead.
You know, I think today our industry's the biggest challenge the industry faces is talent,
Yes.
and it's something that a lot of us speak about. And while at one end the industry needs to take some steps to address that strategically, I think we in our individual capacities can do 2 things. I believe. One is have that dignity of labor in our hotels, and make sure every individual, from your kitchen stewarding person to security to everybody in the entire team, feels that dignity of labor, and that can be set. That tone can be set only by the leaders of the hotel, and I believe we have a huge role to play in that. And secondly, I think as an industry, it's a fantastic industry to be in. It's not inferior to any other industry. Until
Not
the
at all.
time we don't see it that way, we don't evangelize that, and we don't speak about it in that tonality and that positive that positive vibration to it. If we don't do it ourselves, no one else is going to do that for us. So I think it is our responsibility, not an option, not something that we should think about, should I do, should I not do? I think it's a responsibility that we should do. That's the least we owe to the industry.
And also
That's my
disparity.
submission.
I think disparity, we need to remove disparities. And I think we celebrate Women's Day, the International Women's Day. You know, they are our future. We were born to a mother, right?
Absolutely.
I'm the brother of a sister, married to a wife, and father to a daughter, right? I think we must commit to further their cause and entry into this industry, because without them, our world and industry will not head anywhere. I'm sorry to say, in this category, there are not very many women in the industry on the show, but we tried. So that is on me. So next time, we'll do better.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
God bless.